Good morning, Golden Corner Church. It's good to see everybody here this morning, man. That blessed me this morning. I told Brock, I said, man, you can't do that song before I have to get up and preach. That one just gets me all running. Anyway, we decided this week we're going to gave Ronnie a little bit of a rest. He is still fighting the residual effects of pneumonia, so you guys got me today. So I'll try to make it as painless as possible. I think you'll be all right. But we are going to continue in our series, The Difference Maker. So if you have your Bibles, you can turn them to John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14 is what we're going to do. That's the story we're going to do. But before, this is one of the, this story is actually found in all four Gospels, and it's my understanding that it is the only story that is in all four Gospels, which is kind of cool. But I'd like to set it up before we get into it. And basically, this is the deal. Jesus is kind of at the height of his ministry. He is all over the villages and the towns around the Sea of Galilee, and he is teaching, he is healing people, he's doing miraculous things, and word about him is beginning to spread like wildfire through all of these communities. And there is now a crowd that is seeking him out and following him around as he goes, and that crowd is continuing to grow. And you guys know I'm kind of I have an imagination. I like to envision things when I teach about it. And so, but for some reason, every time I always get into this, where Jesus is in his ministry, he's traveling, has this crowd following him, I always think about Forrest Gump, that time he felt like running. I hope that's not sacrilegious. I hope nobody don't get upset at me. But I'm just saying that's kind of what I see. Maybe it's the beard or something. I don't know. But that's kind of what I always see in my head. But with Forrest, he might have had 100 people following him. Jesus' crowd had grown into the thousands that was following him. At the beginning of our story, what we see is Jesus decides that he wants to hop in a boat, and he and his disciples, and they want to go off and be alone. He wants to go to kind of a remote shore on the Sea of Galilee, this really grassy place, and he wants to just spend some time alone, away from the villages and away from the towns. And so and in Matthew it actually says that he had just found out that John the Baptist had been executed, and that's why he wanted to go off and he wanted to pray with his disciples and talk to them. And so, but he wants to go off and be alone. But it says as he gets in the boat and as they start off across the Sea of Galilee, they look over at the shore and the crowd is shadowing him along the shore. They're very persistent. They're refusing to allow him to be alone. Sounds like having a 2-year-old, which I have. Apparently, Jesus didn't have a bathroom to lock himself in. Okay. Raise your hand if you've done that. Parents? Okay, good. Me too. I do it at least daily. The crowd was very persistent, and they were following him. And as the disciples and Jesus, as they landed on the other shore, where they were supposed to be alone, they look, and just minutes behind them coming along the shore is this huge crowd of people. And Jesus, all of a sudden, has a thought. Like a light bulb going off. Something that he would like to do. He knows that this crowd is coming, and he can see, they've obviously traveled a long way to be there. And he knows that he's going to teach, and he's going to heal, and he's going to have to do all these things and talk to all these people. But all of a sudden, he adds something to the list. He wants to feed them. And he turns to one of his disciples, he turns to Philip, and this is what he says. Where can we buy bread to feed all of these people? I want you to think about that for a second. I want you to think about that question. Jesus knows where he is. They literally just got in a boat and went to a remote part on Galilee where there's nothing. Example, no grocery stores. No country cupboards. Shameless plug. No Mickey D's. No Dollar General, if you can believe that, because they're basically everywhere. There wasn't even a gas station that they could run out to at the last minute and buy some 3-day past its expiration bunny bread. Everybody's done that, hadn't you? Cooking dinner, you realize you don't have something that you really need, so you run out to the gas station because you're in jammies and you don't want to go all the way to town, only to get it home and realize that you shouldn't have bought it because it's not as good as the real thing. Do you think Jesus was curious if there was a Walmart nearby? If there was somewhere he could buy some bread? No, I think this is what happened. Since no one's going to answer me. I think Jesus just was taking all this upon himself. He was creating this opportunity he wanted to create. As he saw this crowd coming to him, he realized that they had traveled a long way. They were going to have to travel a long way back. They were probably going to spend a great deal of time there. And out of his compassion and out of his care for people, he wanted to provide them a meal. He wanted to provide something that they were going to need. And I think Jesus knew where he was and that it would take a miracle to have enough food to feed a crowd that size. I think he just wanted to see if Philip felt the same way. I think he was testing Philip. Now, Philip was a logical guy. He was a lot like me. This is what he replied. Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them. Let me just explain to you what Philip just said. If there was if there was somewhere, Jesus, to buy the amount of food that we would need to feed that crowd, we couldn't afford it. There's no way. Philip was right. He had a firm grasp of the situation. He understood exactly what was going on. There was nowhere to buy food, definitely not the amount of food that they would need, and even if there was, they couldn't afford it regardless. Philip's reasoning was correct, but I am willing to make an educated guess that that was not the answer that Jesus was looking for. And when I get to this part of the story, I always envision all the disciples kind of standing around. The crowd's now starting to come in and surround them, And all of the disciples are standing there and just kind of blank staring Jesus. Like, we don't know what you want. Philip's answer seemed pretty good. And all of a sudden, and I don't know how this happened, guys, but all of a sudden this boy is standing in their midst. And I don't know if it was maybe it was a glance at Jesus, between Jesus and the boy, or maybe it was just that the boy overheard what was going on over there and what Jesus was talking about. But somehow, some way, this little boy walked in amongst the disciples, and he was holding 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and Andrew points him out. Andrew turns and he says, "Look, there's this little boy right here with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." But then he had to add, "But I don't know what good it'll do." Now that is, by the way, the McCall version. I don't know if that's useful at all in a situation like this. Now I can't be sure that this is true, okay? So just take this for what it is, me saying it. I believe the boy had a simpler thought process. When Jesus asked the disciples were listening, and they were trying to come up with a solution, a real-world solution for this problem. I believe the boy had a simpler thought process. I believe he heard them talking, or he saw, or whatever, but he realized that Jesus was looking for some food, and he had some food, and he went, I wonder if this could help. Here. And he made it where it was visible to them. He brought up and he offered this food to Jesus, said, "Here, take it." Now, I want to make sure that we understand the quality and the quantity of this food before we move any farther, okay? So let's go through this. First of all, what do we have? The bread, right? Everybody here? We got it? Okay, still awake? Good. And we had the bread, all right? So we had 5 loaves of barley bread. Now, I want to make sure that we get this right, because barley it was a simple grain. And it was probably the hardiest of the grains that the Hebrews planted at this time. And what it was basically meaning, it dealt with drought well and temperature changes, things like that. But it had 2 main uses. The first use was for use in feeding livestock. The second was it was used to feed or make bread or other things in poor communities. So right there we learned something about the boy, just because of what he's eating, just because it's barley loaf. We learned that most likely he was poor. Most likely this food was important to him. Now, I want to slow down for just a second, because I don't want you imagining 18-inch sub rolls from Firehouse, Jeremy. That's not what these were. It wasn't something that you would hold like this. It was something that you would hold like this, okay? A barley loaf was typically, because of how they made it, was typically something that would fit right here in the palms of your hands. It was small. It was almost like a dinner roll, like a roll that you would get at Ryan's. May they rest in peace. They left Seneca. They're dead to me, even if they're still restaurants other places. I want you to make sure you get this, okay? Everybody with me? No, don't be thinking sub rolls. I'm talking about a roll that would fit in your hand just like this. Brock Williams would eat 5 of these before he went to the salad bar. I'm getting him, buddy. 5 Ryan's rolls. And then we had the fish, too. Had 2 fish. Now, typically in the Bible, when we see the word fish, the original language for it is the word is ichthys, okay? And that's what the word that would be used for fish. But in this story, John chooses to use a different word, which is asperia, which means what? Got a lot of experience with those, huh? Small fish. This is a fish. This is closer to a sardine than it would be anything that you could possibly fillet. Okay, this was a fish that was to be used like a relish or like cheese on a cracker. That's the kind of fish it was. It was a small fish, probably salted. In the South, we call them minnows. Bluegill. This is like what, I'm sure the little boy probably was down at the end of a dock close to the shore with a Zebco and was catching these little things on worms. Everybody done that? That's what you do when the fish is terrible. You go catch bluegill. And that's what he did. That's what he had. That's what this little boy had to offer. 5 Ryan's rolls and 2 minnows. I'll eventually change that to minnows, but for right now, I like the southern version. Jesus took his offering. Jesus took his gift. So that'll do. And then Jesus gave some instructions. He told the disciples, he said, here's what I want to do. I want to get all the people out here on these grassy hills. I want to get them to sit down. I want them to get comfortable, sit down in groups. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start to feed them. Okay? So Jesus sat down and he gave thanks, it says in the Bible, if you can go read it, he thanked God for the food. And then what he started doing was breaking this bread. Now, I don't want you to miss this, okay? Because this is the magical part of the story. This is the incredible part of the story. Because right there in the hands of Jesus, something miraculous started to happen. Jesus got that first loaf of bread. He brought it out. Don't forget, it's not a sub roll, it's this roll. And he starts to break it off. He starts to break it off. And he's filling up baskets with it. He just keeps breaking, filling up baskets. The disciples grab the basket, they take and feed a family. They come back, they look, he's still breaking bread off the first one. He hasn't even gotten to the other 4 yet, and he's just breaking bread. And he's filling up baskets as fast as they can take them just by tearing that bread. It appeared to be unending. And then it said he did the same thing with the fish, so I want you to make sure you get this. He takes those 2 minnows, and he lays them down, and he starts cutting them. And he starts cutting them, and he starts filling up baskets with these 2 minnows as he's sliding them down and cutting them, and sliding them down and cutting them, sliding them down and cutting them, like he never can get to the good parts, you know. He's just cutting them and filling these baskets up, and they're taking them. And they're serving all of these crowd of people that were surrounded and sitting in groups everywhere. And he just keeps dishing it out. He just keeps making that food for them. He keeps handing it out. And the disciples are running around like crazy. And before we knew it, this is what we read in the Bible. I'm a stats guy. Y'all know that, right? Jesus had multiplied this seemingly insignificant, this menial gift. And he had fed, it says in the Bible, 5,000 men and their families. Now, because I'm kind of a stats guy, I wanted to do something kind of interesting. So what I did was I took a typical Sunday morning here at Golden Corner Church, and I looked at the number of men we had, and then I figured out how many men we had who had spouses, and then I figured out how many of them had kids, and then I applied those proportions to this story because I wanted to know close to how many people were fed. And this is the number I'll give you. Easily, over 10,000 people were fed with 5 Ryan rolls and 2 minnows. Now, I want to make sure you see this because I want to make sure we understand what fed means. I want you to read this verse. This is the end of verse 11 through 13. This is what it said. And they all ate as much as they wanted. Now, come on now, think about yourself. Did it say, hey, we gave them a ration? Everybody got a bite? I said that as country as I could, I know. Is that what it says? It says they all ate as much as they wanted. And then it says this, after everyone was full. That's a big deal. Everyone was full. Everyone sat there and ate. Jesus was breaking that stuff off. Everyone that sat there and ate, they were laughing, they were cutting up, they were eating until they were rubbing their bellies and kicking back. And then Jesus told his disciples this. He said, now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted. So they picked up the pieces and they filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. Jesus sent home doggy bags. I want you to make sure you see that. He multiplied this boy's gift and had some left over. So what do we learn from this story? Guys, there's an overlying lesson that we have said every single Sunday since we started this series. And we're going to say it every Sunday. And the reason we say it every single Sunday, even though we're going to tell you more, is because we want to make sure if you don't get anything else, this is what you get. Here it is. Jesus is the difference maker. I want to make sure that we see this. In every story that we've told so far, this seems to be the case. He made the difference in this situation. Without him, this miracle doesn't happen. Without him, this need goes unmet. Without him, those people go home hungry. With every break of bread and cut of fish, he multiplied a gift to feed thousands. Without Jesus, it doesn't happen. Got it? There's another lesson from this story. And this one may sound familiar as well. You've heard it recently. You can partner with the difference maker. Now, it may sound familiar because Ronnie taught that last week. But to be specific, Ronnie made this point. Ronnie taught us that we can partner with the difference maker by being a good advertisement for Jesus. By being a good advertisement for him. Now I want to add to that this morning. You guys know, man, that this is my heart. This is where I like to live. But this is, there's more to it. There are multiple ways to partner with the difference maker, and I believe another way is shown in this story that we can partner with him. There's another way that we can join him and we can help him. We can become involved. We can partner with the difference maker by surrendering what we have to him. And that's where everybody cuts me off. I want to be honest, guys. There was a person in this story. There was something in this story that I couldn't get over. Every time I read it, it's what moved me. It's what moved me the most. It was a little boy. Because we believe that this doesn't happen without Jesus, right? This miracle doesn't happen. But I'm here to tell you something else. It doesn't happen without the boy either. The disciples, they didn't offer a solution. They didn't come up with something grand. All the other people that were coming in and standing around, they had nothing to offer. The boy was the only one who walked up and offered anything other than negativity. Right? This doesn't happen without the boy. I don't think the little boy knew the potential. I don't think he had a clue what Jesus could do or was going to do with his gift. I don't think he probably understood that. But he knew two things. He knew Jesus needed food. He knew he had some. And he was willing to give it. He was willing to surrender it. The little boy joined Jesus. He gave up his meal. Who knows how many meals that was supposed to be for him or how long that was supposed to last him. Who knows, it could have been the last meal he had. But he trusted in Jesus. From what he had heard or what he had seen so far, he trusted in the difference maker. He trusted that Jesus would take care of him. He trusted that Jesus would take care of everyone there. He had faith in Jesus' compassion because he just saw it on display, and he had faith in Jesus' power. Through the boy's surrender, Jesus fulfilled a need for thousands. He multiplied the boy's gift of a meal, and turned it into a supernatural blessing for everyone. Now, I want to tell you, this week I tried real hard, and Jake was in here first service, and I made him second that, but I tried real hard to come up with another word rather than surrender. I thesaurused that bad boy. And there are other words, a lot of good words. Learned them the other day. But I'll be honest, for me, nothing could take the place of surrender. Give, offer, invest, none of these things could take the place of it. When it got down to it, the heart of what I felt like had to happen was we had to be able to surrender control. And I believe that this word is the word that we're supposed to use for this particular sermon. For this particular message, I believe it's the word Jesus wants you to hear. But here's the problem. For some reason, that word makes people draw up in a knot. It makes people tense up. It makes people, if they do anything, they just hold on tighter. For some reason, when we use the word surrender, we think that that means that we're losing or we're about to lose something or we're waving a white flag or we're losing something forever. That's what we see. But surrendering what we have to Jesus is not supposed to be torturous. It's not supposed to be terrifying. That's not what he wanted it to be. That's not what he's looking for. Surrendering what we have to Jesus is supposed to lead to miraculous things. I want you to do something with me in this story. I want you to think about the boy. Everybody with me? We're all still here? Think about the boy. Do you think he went hungry? Do you think he went hungry? Do you think he just got one piece? Do you think he just got what he gave? Or do you think he ate till he was full? That's what I believe. I believe he probably got to eat more than he was going to eat to begin with. He's probably a growing boy. I remember being young. I believe he got to eat until he was full. And just in the very pit of my heart, what I believe is that boy was handed the first portion, the first tear of bread. That's just in my heart. It's just what I see. I see Jesus turning and handing him that first piece of bread and winking at him saying, "Watch this." Think about the other people there. Think about everybody else that was there, the crowd. Think about them. They walked up with nothing. They didn't bring anything into this, did they? Did they benefit from the boy's willingness to surrender what he had to Jesus? Did they benefit? Did they just get a ration? Did they just get a portion? No. They walked away full in more ways than one, might I add. They got to eat and see something awesome. Think about the leftovers. Where do you think they went? Where do you think they went? Jesus, obviously, it says it in the Bible, didn't want to see them go to waste. Where do you think they went? I think they went to somebody else in need, somebody he knew he was going to cross paths with. Maybe there's some sort of significance to there being 12 baskets. Everyone in this story benefited from a single boy's willingness to surrender what he had to Jesus. And that's what Jesus wants for you. That's what he's looking for. He's looking at you and saying, "Man, I'd love for you to surrender that to me. I'd love for you to hand that to me. We could do so much with it." And you might be sitting there right now, guys. You might be sitting there and you say, "I don't know what I have to offer. I don't know what I could possibly surrender to Jesus and see him do anything with. I don't know what you're talking about, Tim." Well, I'd like to help you. I have a few suggestions for you, and I'm going to go through these pretty quick, okay? These are a good place to start of things that you could surrender. This is a good place to start. It's not everything. It's just a good place to start. Number one, time. You can partner with Jesus by selecting a portion of your day and giving it to him. Now, here's what I know. Time is a valuable commodity to you. I know it is. We are just so busy. We got so much to do. I can tell you right now, I understand, man, being in the church world, we see it a lot. You know, it is just time is so valuable to people, and we don't like to give our time to a whole lot of things. And for some reason, when we think about giving our time to Jesus, we kind of dread it. We kind of just all of a sudden go like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that. But here's the deal. Time spent with Jesus or on Jesus' behalf is not wasted time. It's not lost time. When you surrender your time to Jesus, He's going to do incredible things. For example, He can take a 15-minute mindless car ride to work that you dread and turn it into a 15-minute fulfilling pep rally that will get you through the rest of your day. That's what He can do. He can take a 5-minute conversation with somebody that you didn't think you had time to have, nor that were qualified to have, and turn it into the very moment that someone changes their mind and turns towards Christ. That's what He can do. That's what He does with time. He will take it, and He will multiply it, and He will give it back to you, and He will do amazing, miraculous things with it. Number 2 is resources. You can partner with the difference maker by taking your resources, your money, your assets, the things, the material things, and the things that God has put into your life and surrendering it to Him. Now, I know some of you just like, oh no, here we go. But don't do that. I'm not talking about signing over your bank account to Golden Corner Church. I mean, you can do that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking at the things that He's blessed you with, looking at the things you have that He has placed with in your life and taking and using them for Him. Investing them. Giving and generosity are Jesus taught, Jesus shown principles in the Bible. He will take that gift, He will multiply it, He will bless how you use the things that He has given you. When you use your resources and the things He has blessed you with to be a blessing to others out of surrender to Him, He will multiply those gifts and turn them into miracles. I've seen Him do it, and so have some of you. Number 3, abilities. Every single one of you have a giftedness, an ability, a talent, a skill, a passion, or something. If I didn't have the right word, that Jesus could really use. He could really do something with it. And I don't know what that is for you. And you know, you've heard the list before, man. Preachers get up here and we do our list, you know, encouragers and teachers and all of these things. But I want to kind of shrink your box a little bit, because here's the deal. Here's what I want you to think about. I have a lady that signed up for guest services just a little while back, and we talked about guest services and kind of what we do and how we operate and everything. And she was a pretty shy lady, and I was talking to her, and I could tell, you know, she was kind of shy, which was funny in guest services. But we were talking, and I said, you know, I said, we'll just do this and da-da-da, and you smile and wave and thanks. She said, oh, I can do that. So I can smile. And I said, you're hired. It was simple. And she does, by the way. She had a beautiful smile. She found something she had that Jesus could use. She chose to use it. I've seen handymen step in, do incredible things for people in need. I've seen, I think about my grandmother a lot and other people. I know tons, Paul, I know tons of people that, you know, they cook and they serve people when they're in difficult times and everything. The bottom line is Jesus made you good at something. He made you good at something. No matter how small you think it is, no matter how meaningless you think it is, He made you decent or good at something, and He can use it, and He will multiply, and He will do miraculous things through it if you're willing to give Him a shot and hand it to Him. I want to tell this story, and I know it's 12. Sorry. This didn't come natural to me, okay? It didn't come natural to me at all. In my Christian walk, after I got saved, some things came very natural to me. Worship, for instance. Worship always came very natural to me. Surrendering what I have to Jesus, not so much. But I believe God placed people in my life, and He surrounded me with a lot of different people who, and how they lived and the things that they did, they would show that, you know, surrender was a great thing. I saw a lot of them surrender certain things that they had, their resources or some skill or some talent or some passion and time, surrender their time to Christ and just let Him have it. And I saw Him do miraculous things. But of all of the people, no one was probably more impactful to me in this area than my wife, Brittany. Britt is what I'm going to call her. No one probably made the difference in me that Britt did. Now, I want to just go ahead and throw this out there just so you guys know. But Brittany is not perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we understand that, okay? However, when it comes to this, surrendering what she has and treating everything like it belongs to Jesus, she's miles ahead of me. And I wish I had time to go through the list of, somebody, we find out somebody's sick or somebody, whatever, and I'm like, okay, I got to remember to pray for them. And Brittany's like, I wonder if we need to keep their kids for them. Should we take them some Lysol? How many pans of lasagna can they fit in their freezer, I wonder? I mean, that's the difference in us. And I know some of you that are like that. But I mean, I wish I could just go through, man, the number of Wednesday nights and things that she'd get off work and go to the grocery store and cooking and doing all this for these kids and all this stuff. I wish I'd had time to just tell you all of these different things, but I got a very specific story I want to share. So when Brittany and I got married, we lived in a trailer that we didn't own and rented a lot. And we're able it was basically just given to us. And then we lived in her father's house for a few years actually. And we're able just to basically squat there, pay bills, So we had this goal though. We had this dream. We had this big thing that we wanted to do. And that was we wanted to build our dream home. Our first home that would technically be like ours was going to be our dream home. We were going to live there. You're going to find me dead in the field one day. Okay? On the farm. And so that was our plan, that was our goal, so that's what we did. And we worked hard, we saved money, we stressed about what we did and how we did it, and we were saving all of our money for several years. And we got to the place where we were going to, like in 2012, we said, okay, yeah, we're ready to go. We've got a lot of money saved up, we're going to pull the trigger on this house, we're going to go. Met with our builder and started talking to him, and everything looked great. Brittany had a book like this of everything she wanted in the house. We shrunk it to like that. But this was going to be our dream place, and we were so excited about it. We were so passionate. We had done, everything that we felt like we were supposed to do, honored God with how we lived and how we did our finances and everything. We were ready to go. And so we got to that point, and we started shopping for loans. And when we got to shopping for loans, all of a sudden something became very clear. The housing market, the way it was at that time, what we realized is that we're going to have to spend almost all of our money out of our pocket that we had saved up. And I'm not going to say all of it because I don't remember if it was like, all of it, but it was one of those things where it made us stop, right, babe? It made us stop and go like, I don't know that we can do that. She was upset, I was upset. We thought we were ready. We'd already went through this whole process, and now we're just trying to get the money, and we realized, man, this is going to be tough. This is going to put us in a tough place. It'll be risky. It's going to be challenging for us. And I remember talking to her, and she was at work. I was riding down the road, and I said, man, we'll just talk about it when we get home. So we got home, sat down in the living room, and me and her started talking. And, man, we started problem solving. I'm talking about serious. And if y'all know me at all, that's like my thing. So I'm like, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And she's doing the same thing. And we finally get to a place where we're both pretty well exasperated and don't have a good solution. And we say, you know what, let's pray. Let's just pray. And I'll never forget what she prayed, ever. Because it taught me a lot. She prayed two things. This was the first one. The first thing she prayed was this. She said, God, if this house is somehow going to keep us from being able to give and be generous to others when we need to, or it's going to keep us from doing anything that you want us to do, then I don't want the house. That was like a shot to the gut. And then she prayed a second thing. And then she said, but, key word, if you will bless us with this house, we will treat it like it's yours. We will use it to bless as many people as we possibly can. Now, at that time, I'm not sure I knew what she meant. I'm not sure I even understood. But some things happened and some things went right, and we ended up being able to build that house and moving forward. And when we got to the end of it, you wouldn't believe. You just wouldn't believe what our bank account looked like. But over the course of time, I've got to watch over the last 4 years and watch Brittany do that. And I've got to be a part of it. I've got to watch. We've had kids live with us, some for long periods of time. Amy, I know she'll listen to this online, so I had to say it. Several in and out. People, when they come over and they use the farm, we have people come over, take pictures, and we had the students there all the time for a while, and they would come there every Wednesday night, and we'd have a meal, and they'd run around and destroy the house, and she's over there just grinning, and I'm over here hating it. You know, every birthday party, every gathering, everything else, she'd take, and, Brittany would invite, it's supposed to be a family dinner, and then all of a sudden we got 70 people there, and some of them I don't even know. That's surrendering what you have to Jesus. It's not scary, and it's not more complicated than that. Look around at your life and the things that you have. Just like that day on the Sea of Galilee when Jesus was looking to do something super cool, and he wanted to amaze everyone there so that they would see who he is. Just like that day on the Sea of Galilee, Jesus wants to do the exact same thing right now. That's exactly what he wants to do right now today, because there are people all around you every single day that are in need. They have some needs are very obvious. Some needs are just things that we could do to help them. But here's the deal. Jesus would love to take care of those needs. Jesus would love to get involved in those people's lives. Jesus would love to draw those people to him. But the truth is, what he wants is he wants some partners. And he wants some people who are willing to give what they have that is theirs and actually his, and give it back to him so that he can do some incredible things. That's what he wants. I'm telling you, it'll be unbelievable. It would be unbelievable if we could identify some things and start handing them to him. No matter how insignificant or how menial or how small you think your gift is, or what you have to offer, or how you even look at yourself, the truth is, Jesus can do a whole lot with a little bit. Here's what I'd like to do. If everybody will, if you bow your heads and close your eyes. I want to challenge you with something this morning. I want to challenge you to do this. I want you to start thinking about ways and things that you could surrender to Jesus and he could probably use and he could probably do something incredible with. And you can start where I did, with giving him a proportion of your day to spend with him or as a servant to him. You can pray and ask and obediently give him a proportion of what he's given you. You can search yourself and discover the abilities and passions that you can put at his disposal. I think those are great places to start, but here's what I really want you to do. I want you, when you get home, to take a piece of paper. I don't care if it's a napkin, I don't care what it is, but just something you can write on. And I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list of some things that you know you're not surrendering to him, that you should be surrendering to him because he could use them. And on your own, at home or with your spouse or whatever, I want you to look at that list and I want you to pray about offering that stuff to him. I want you to pray about handing him some of that stuff that you could use. He's blessed you with it. He's trusted you with it in the hopes that you would turn around and use it and offer it back to Him. I'm telling you, it can be the most beautiful, simple thing, extraordinary thing you've ever seen in your life to see Him use what you have to make a lasting difference in the lives of people. So you make that list. I don't care if there's one thing on it. I don't care if there's 10 on it. You just make your list. This specifically for you. You make your list, and I want you to put it somewhere where you can see it. Put it in your car. Put it on the refrigerator. Do whatever you got to do. Just get it. Keep it in your pocket or in your wallet, and I want you to keep that, and I want you to keep it in the forefront of your mind because opportunities are going to come. I promise you they will. Opportunities are going to come for you to hand that stuff over. To take a chance. To surrender. To surrender. To surrender. I want to say it until that word changes in your mind to something you can be excited about rather than something you can dread. Surrender what you have to Him. Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for being the wonderful, awesome God that you are, and I thank you for this story. I thank you for sending your Son here and for doing something just like that. It was so cool, and using that little boy and his little meal so we can feel like we too can be used by you. I thank you for every single person here this morning. I pray that you bless their day and they enjoy it. But God, I pray that you keep all of this in their hearts, that you remind them of it constantly. You draw them closer to you, and I pray that you use them. In Jesus' name, and everybody says, amen. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your day. You are dismissed. Thank you.